Hello, my name is Maricela Sotelo and I have been assigned Chapter 25. The article is titled Stereotyping Low-Wage Mothers Who Have Work and Family Conflicts by Lisa Dodson. In this article, she examines the experiences of low-wage mothers when they have to put their family first. She explains that when women face family and work conflicts, they have to make difficult choices that might mean trouble for them at work. She further discusses that when this family work conflict comes into play for low-wage mothers, there's a critique that moves from their work performance and really shifts the conversation to one about their reproductive choices. She first begins by letting us know that she did this research over a 10-year period where in this qualitative research study, she was able to interview 300 low-income working-class mothers and about 50 employers. She first begins by discussing that low-wage mothers and lack of benefits like sick leave and flexibility is what really comes into play in these stereotyping. So she begins by explaining that when low-wage mothers have to address their children's health and it interferes with their employment schedule, it really creates some challenges for them. In the study, she indicates that when participants felt torn between a health crisis for their children, they really were torn. She says that it might mean trouble for them at work and they were not giving their children the best care that they needed. She talks about Natalie, a participant with special needs child where she speculates that perhaps her employer believed it was her fault for her child's disability, perhaps that she may have taken drugs or alcohol during the pregnancy. Another major theme that arose throughout the article was this juggling act that women face to ensure that their children have child care. She describes that for the most part, women were concerned that their children weren't in immediate danger. Some of them would justify it by saying, I know at least that they're not on the street. She details the story of a woman named Anna that faced a difficult decision with childcare when her daughter was having difficulties at an after-school program. Although Anna wasn't 100% confident with the program, she would justify it by saying, I only use them because I know at least she's safe and it's cheap. So where it gets really interesting is when Dodson starts to describe the interviews that she had with the employers. This is where the stereotypes really start to emerge. So employers describe low-wage parents as disorganized, unreliable, and without decent work ethic. Some employers expressed impatience with childcare problems. They said things like, I deal with it. I have kids too, so just take responsibility. Employers express irritation when parents didn't have a backup plan for childcare. Other employers express contempt, like for sick kids, by saying things like, don't have them if you can't take care of them. Another one even said something along the lines like, no one asked her to have children. I'm so sick of hearing about sick children with problems at their school, this and that. Don't have them. If you do, then deal with it. So in her synthesis, Dodson describes that although some employers showed sympathy for low-wage mothers by practicing flexibility with their workers, most didn't. Dodson explained that low-wage mothers face family and work conflict. Employers would resort to stereotyping of like the welfare mother. Dodson concluded that when low-wage mothers try to negotiate flexibility as they attempt to juggle disproportionate work and family challenges, this may be met with a particular stigma reserved for low-wage mothers, like that of unworthy reproducers. So The article that I will be sharing about today that I found that kind of wraps around this idea of low-wage workers and work-family conflict is called Single Mothers, Social Capital, and Work-Family Conflict by Teresa Ciabattari. So in this article, she examines work-family conflict among low-income unmarried mothers. She used a quantitative approach in her study. She analyzed the Fragile Families Child Wellbeing Study. This is where she analyzed both work-family conflict and how it affects employment. The sample of the study was 4,898 families over 20 U.S. cities. And what she found in her analysis, she found that unmarried mothers in general do not report high levels of work-family conflict. I thought that was pretty interesting. And she also found that low-income women do, however, report higher levels of work-family conflict than do higher-income women. So that income disparity showed that women with lower incomes do report a higher work-family conflict. And when she analyzed the 3 different family work conflict items in the study, she found that women are most likely to report having a lack of flexibility at work, so they're able to handle their family needs. And this coincides with Dodson's article 2, that not having that flexibility to make decisions for their family. So this article in particular suggests that flexible working schedules could be especially helpful for unmarried women in perceiving a better balance between their multiple roles. The analysis also demonstrates that for low-income unmarried mothers experiencing work-family conflicts, it makes employment stability really difficult. She said that the analysis showed that women reporting high levels of conflict were more likely to be out of work. Some were looking for new jobs, and others, they just weren't. But regardless of their case, employment stability for these women is one of the consequences that results from work-family conflicts for low-income unmarried mothers. One of the ways that this chapter relates to my work is I can say that although I'm not a single parent, I do can understand the challenges that comes from managing family and work conflicts. That still applies to me. I remember a few years back when one of my sons was very ill. He is diagnosed with asthma, and he was having a flare-up during the winter season. I remember that, I didn't want to call in sick. I hated doing that. I didn't want to be perceived as the person that didn't have a good work ethic or didn't show up to work. So I remember thinking, well, what am I going to do? I know he's not feeling well, but I made the decision to take him to the babysitter regardless, and I just asked her if she could call me at work if there were any concerns. Well, needless to say, she called me a few hours later. She called me into work, but at least I knew that my employer would have to let me leave if I got a phone call from my babysitter. So this brings me to 2 questions that I have. So in reviewing Dodson's qualitative work, where she notes that for low-wage women, family conflict can lead to stereotyping of women's reproduction, and the quantitative work of Single Mothers, Social Capital, and Work-Family Conflict by Teresa Ciabattari, what are some types of workplace changes that are most needed to improve the lives of working mothers and their families? And the second question that I came up with is, please discuss what your experience has been when working alongside single mothers or single fathers who may have needed that flexibility to address family conflicts. Was it perhaps frustrating for you, or maybe even convenient? And in what ways, if any, has your thinking evolved after reading the article, the assigned chapter, Stereotyping Low-Wage Mothers, who have work and family conflicts. So that's all I have, and thanks.